Okay, I would like to welcome everyone to the One Africa Freedom Dialogue, which is not physical. As you can see, we are doing it on Zoom. I'm really happy to know a lot of us were able to join. A lot of us are able to join. Thank you all for joining as well. This is AVI, African Voices International. African Voices International is a registered political, non-governmental organization that promotes political and democratic freedom, with its headquarters being in Ghana. So yes, we people of AVI, we as Freedom Giants, we help promote the political and the democratic freedom of Africa and the whole worldwide. That's it. We believe in the liberation of everybody, no matter wherever you find yourself. We believe you all should be liberated. We believe you all have to fight for our freedom. We should all be able to fight for our freedom. We have the right to promote our freedom and make Africa a better place. Yes. So our theme for today is politics of liberation. Politics of liberation. And we'll be having our host, who is in the person of Eko Ando, lead us through us, who is going to be our host for today, who is going to lead us, and then our panelists. So, Honorable Freedom Giant Eko Ando, are you here, please?
I am here, Madam Moderator.
Okay, I think I'm going to hand everything to you. Hope if we have a successful discussion, a successful session. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Roberta Yelson. Once again, my name is Kowando. I'm a Freedom Giant of African Voices International. I hope you can all hear me, please. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear.
We can hear you.
Very well. I am a Freedom Giant of African Voices International, and today on the politics of interest, liberation, I am your host. Hello.
Yeah, Echo, we can hear you.
Okay, very well. I must say, as my sincere gratitude to the founder and the general overseer of African Voices International, who is in the person of Master Isaac Brady. Thank you so much for this privilege to be part of this wonderful group, wonderful association that is geared towards the liberation of African politics to a better stance in the not so distant future. And moving on, I would have to acknowledge our panelists who are Freedom Giants as well. And we will have today on our program, London Jameh, the president of AVI Gambia. Please, if you are here, you could just give us a wave or a voice indicating you're here with us. Freedom Giants, London Jameh, are you here? Okay, so on the bill, we would also have... Hello, London Jameh, please, are you with us?
Yes, please, I'm around.
Very well, thank you so much for your time. And moving on, we have Adiroke Afolabi, if I pronounce the name right, from Nigeria. Are you with us, please?
Yes, thank you for having me.
Very well, thank you so much for your time. And again, we will have Richard Job Matwa from Uganda, the Uganda Anatomy, joining us on this program portfolio. Please, if you are here with us, a wave or a shout, please. Do we have Freedom Giants Job Matua here with us? Okay, we seems to have a little bit of challenge connecting with him, but we hope he joins us so soon as possible. And finally, we will have a Freedom Giants Jane Jemato Chisrick of Kenya Anatomy. Please, if you are here with us, a wave or a shout to recognize you, please.
I am present.
Very well. Thank you all so much for your time and the opportunity to spend this day with us. And we are hopeful that our audiences who are here with us and others who will join us later will have a fair grip of the knowledge that is indebted in you for the whole world. Thank you very much. Moving on, I won't spend much time, but to move on straight into our discussions for today. If I have your permissions, can we kickstart the conversations?
Yes, please, you can.
Very well. Is my moderator here with me? Freedom Giants, you also here with me? Okay.
Yes, please, I am.
Very well. First on the bill, I don't know, have we gotten Freedom Giants Job Matua on the bill?
Yes, please, he's here.
Okay, very well. Say, if you're here, you could give a shout. Let's acknowledge your presence.
I think his audio has a problem.
Oh, very well. We hope he joins us so soon. Well, today's topic or theme is about the politics of liberation. The politics of liberation. Before I kickstart everything, I'm hoping that by the end of this session, we must develop or have an in-depth knowledge or understanding or a philosophy of liberation that is not a theory or theology, but the theology of liberation. Okay, if Job Matua is with us, hello, Freedom Giants Job Matua, are you now here with us? Okay, he's not with us, so.
He is, but I think his audio is having a problem, so can we kickstart with someone who is really present?
Yes, very well.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Freedom Giants, Jemato, please, are you with us? I think I can start with you now.
Yes, I'm here.
Yes. Please, Freedom Giants, Jemato Chisreke. I want to know the activities associated with the governance of a country or area, especially the debates between parties having power. Freedom Giants, I want to know your understanding about politics.
Oh, okay, so my opinion, politics is basically how people express themselves, how political leaders express themselves, and that is what it's what guides it's what governs and guides people in a society. Normally, people usually start out as a tribe, which mostly just has one purpose and lives in a situation where mostly the people at the top of the hierarchy are the ones who benefit. But now, once a society becomes civilized, politics comes in, and as a result, that politics helps everybody in the chain to express themselves, helps everybody in the chain to get something that benefits all of them. Thank you.
Very well. Thanks so much for that input. And in summary, that is, you said it is the activities associated with the governance of a country, especially between political parties having power.
Yes.
Moving on, I would again, I'll stick with you. I want to know, without political parties, electors would have to individually evaluate every candidate in every election. Yes. But political parties enable electors to make judgments about just a few groups.
Yes.
And then apply their judgments of the party to all the candidates affiliated with that group. Yes. I'm just wondering, what is the importance of political parties in democracy?
Okay, so there are quite a number of important. The importance of one of the importance of having a political parties in the democratic spaces, as you mentioned, it brings order out of the chaos of having a multiple person, so that each individual person doesn't have to deal with one person. You all get to decide.
Okay, Freedom Dance. A minute. I'm not cutting you, but can you match your voice a little bit higher?
Okay, sorry. I'm saying
very well.
The political parties in a democracy are important because they bring order out of the chaos that is a multitude of voters. As you said, each individual doesn't have to focus on one person. A group can decide this is the ideology that we are following versus what another group chooses to follow. And as a result, it gives people a chance to work as a group. In large societies, you're going to need representative democracy. And that is because you will never find two people who think identically or two groups which think identically because of the fact that we all have different needs. One person might not care about having, for example, a ramp access for someone who's disabled and is using a wheelchair, but another group that has such individuals in that group will want to consider that aspect when they are deciding which political parties to choose. So it brings out a situation where different views can be represented concerning different issues. At the same time, various representatives together form a responsible government structure. Because without having them in a group, because you see, for example, if you look at most of the leading political parties in Africa, you would find that there's a structure where there's a president, there's a vice president, you're going to have ministers, you're going to have what. So all these people come together to form a functioning structure. So that is another importance of having political parties in a democratic space. Another important point is that it's a mechanism to support or restrain government, make policies, justify or oppose them. This is where you're going to have the main parties which make up the government, and you're also going to end up with the other parties that come up to make an opposition. Because at the end of the day, not everything that the government is going to come up with is 100% good. There has to be debates to try and iron out issues here and there. And sometimes if it's very detrimental to the community, you need an opposition to make sure that some policies don't go through. Another important aspect is that independent candidates cannot make promises about major policies. If someone is vying for a political seat on an independent party ticket, you'd find that he can't be able maybe to decide things about roads, things about hospitals, things about employment, because at the end of the day, you need a government structure to be able to push such policies to go through. And one person can't do that. He needs to work in a group, whether it's in the government or in the opposition, push policies which are going to help people. Another usefulness of having political parties in a democratic space is that you're going to have recruitment of office holders in the sense that when these people start to campaign and start to recruit members for the political party, you're going to have obvious vacancies in the party, and as people join in and become more involved in the political process, you find these same people rising in ranks to become senior members in that political parties, and eventually will hold offices. And that's why it's very important to include young people when it comes to politics, because as they grow in politics, they're able to work for their political party and sometimes end up in government. I've talked about the opposition, which is very important to make sure that the government doesn't make unanimous decisions that might not be good for the community. Another important thing is that political parties in a democratic space shape public opinions. They raise and highlight issues, and you'll find this happening when they're campaigning, when there's a major change that they want to make, maybe in the laws of the country, when we're holding a referendum. They expose the populace to the new ideas that they have to the new policies that they have, why it's good, why it's bad, and in the process they end up educating the community about those issues. And as a result, they end up imparting political knowledge to the community, whether it's when they write manifestos, when they're having public political meetings. Something else that is important is that they provide people access to the government machinery and welfare schemes implemented by the government. Because if let's say the government is willing to do a project for the community, the community has members of the community who are interested have to find a way to access it without you might not necessarily be able to access the major political leaders in your country, but you at least can be able to access that member, maybe member of parliament, maybe the area political leader, and follow up about your issues so that you can also benefit from the schemes that the government has implemented. Yeah, I think that those are some of the points. Thank you.
Very well, Freedom Giants, Jane, Joe, Matt. So those are excellent inputs there. We are grateful for those. I'll come back to you. Stick and stay with us. But if I should move on to Freedom Giants, Richard, Job, Matwa, are you now here with us, please? Hello, Freedom Giants, Job, Matwa, are you now with us?
Yeah.
Please, if you could reposition yourself as to clear connection. Hello, can you hear me, please? We cannot hear you.
I'm hearing you, Freedom Giant.
Okay, very well, very well. We are grateful for your time this afternoon.
Yes.
Quickly, we just want to know your take on politics. What is politics from your perspective?
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Freedom Giant. I want to greet all my Pan-African brothers and sisters online this evening in East Africa and the afternoon somewhere in the other part of my West Africa. I want to thank African Voice International for this important dialogue. And within my time, I want to address myself to the issue of politics of liberation. And in this context, what is politics in my understanding?
Exactly.
Freedom Giant and my dear other brothers and sisters, politics in my own definition as a Job Richard Matua is a game of influence about power, which is authority, and the management of resources within a community, a society, a nation, or a continent going into geopolitics, international matter. So I repeat, politics, we should not actually try to go into philosophical aspect of it, into a scholarly definition. Politics actually is a game of influence about power and management of resources. My brothers, my African brothers and sisters, when we talk about politics, we are talking about power, which is authority. We are talking about management of resources, which resources can be positions, which are statuses, or national cake, or national cakes, what we call the national budget, national resources. Now, Freedom Giant, this makes politics a very highly contested affair owing to its significance in determining power and the distribution of resources. So we should look at politics in the context of how human beings are governed with respect to power and distribution of resources. So that should be the best context of understanding politics. Then if that is true, then we must look at basic components of this politics. And we can only see the basic component of politics by looking at issues which enable us to state the problems of politics. What are these issues? Number one, liberty. Number two, justice. Number three, equality. Number four, rights. Number five, order or authority. So, Freedom Giant and my dear other Pan-African brothers and sisters, when we are talking about politics of liberation, we must define and be very specific in terms of the liberation we want. Is it economic liberation? Is it liberation from imperialism? What aspect of politics of liberation are we addressing? Because this subject of politics of liberation is a 1967 year concept brought forward by Kwame Ture and Charles V. Hamilton, when they had brought issues concerning the rights of the blacks, the black power in the United States of America. So their liberation was in the context of freedom of the black man to be equivalent of a white man. So when we are talking about politics, we are talking about power, authority, vis-a-vis resource management, which resources I said can be positions, statuses in society, can be the national cake, or what we call the national budget. So I want us to discuss the politics of liberation with reference to this definition of politics I have come up with. Thank you very much, Freedom Giant. Hello?
Very well, very well. Exciting and interesting inputs there. I love your exuberance and your passion following your submission.
Yes.
If we move on, I wouldn't want to talk much about it because politics is relative, and you've said it all.
And I emphasize it that it is about power and the resource management.
Exactly.
Yes.
And you believe politics goes beyond power?
Now, that's resource distribution, resource management, governance, governing management of society. That is where we talk about power and the resource management. And this can be at a local level, state level, continental level, even international level. That's now what we call geopolitics or the international politics.
I see.
Yes.
I see. And just a quick one. I want to know your take on importance of political parties in a democratic environment. Just a quick one.
Oh, yes. I have just had my sister, I think from Kenya, discussing this concept, and she did very well. I want to congratulate her. Asanteni sana, that I am. In Kiswahili, that means thank you very much, my sister.
Okay.
Political parties are very important in a multi-party dispensation. What do I mean by that? A kind of political system where we have different political parties with different ideologies and political agenda, all struggling to lead the country, to manage the society in order to implement their political agenda and values. So the importance of political party is to develop a true political culture by emphasizing ideas, that those are principles or values, and then political agenda. This would be very, very difficult for individuals to do. It will be very, very difficult for an individual to say, my ideal, my principle of politics is this, and then you try to influence all other people to believe in that idea. Now, by being in a group called a political party, it becomes much easier for political agenda or principles or values to be inculcated in the society. So it is very, very vital in a multi-party dispensation. It is very, very important in civilized politics or liberal democracy to have political party.
Very well. I understand you with your hypothesis. Do you mean with your hypothesis that is your hypothesis changes the definition of power, and changes the definition of all politics, right? So as you said, power can be fetishized, right? You also said it can be self-referential, right? But I need to think at which level. Is it at the level of the institutions, or at which levels?
The power.
Yeah.
Come again with that question.
Okay. So I'm just wondering, in your submission, you made mention that your hypothesis changes the definition of power. And the changes, Yes, and the changes and your definition of power, and your changes, I mean, your definition changes the definition of power, okay, and changes the definition of all politics, okay.
Yes.
So power can be fetishized.
Yes.
It can be self-referential, okay. But I need to think at which level.
Okay, please.
Can
my
you
brother,
throw some light on that?
Yes, I'm ready. Now, what I can tell you is that power is about authority to manage a society. That's why in a democratic dispensation, in a democracy, that power must be given by the people. That's why we say power belongs to the people.
Okay.
Now, we have seen in Africa whereby people obtain power by the barrel of the guns, or people sustain power by military dictatorship. Now, power precisely should be the will of the people to be governed, which will they entrust in a group of people that can be now a political party or an individual to lead them. Now, what happens is that sometimes the power corrupts. That is where a problem sets in. Hello?
Yeah, we are with you, please.
Yes, so therefore, the issue about power becoming corruptible, is it at individual level, at institutional level? It is now dependent upon the individuals that are participating in that democracy. That individual involves even that ordinary voter who casts a ballot. If that voter does not hold the people, he or she gives the power responsible, then those people will abuse the power, affecting the very person who has elected them to be in that position. Hello?
Yeah, hello.
Yes, okay. My brother.
Okay, so those are excellent there. But if I should come in, just a quick one as well.
Yes.
I need to arrive at a positive vision of politics,
Yes.
and not to be an idealist or moralist.
Yes.
Because my position is a critical realism.
Very good.
I am not a moralist
Yes.
who thinks politics is very beautiful. No, I say in the majority of cases, politics becomes dominating and fetishized.
Yes.
But it is a negative possibility. What is your take on this?
No, politics actually, I want to simplify what you are bringing forward.
Yeah.
To my other Pan-African brothers. You are trying to say that sometimes politics can be a negative influence.
Exactly.
In summary, people say politics is dirty. And I want to tell you, my brother, politics is not dirty. Politics is very clean as a glass, which is as transparent as possible. What makes politics very negative are dirty people that go into politics. They make the politics dirty. That's why you see in advanced countries like America, we have democracies that are very lean. Then you come to our Africa, you have democracies that are terribly dirty. In other words, politics itself is not dirty. Politics is just like money. Money takes the character of the possessor. If that person is disciplined, money will be disciplined with the person. If the person is in discipline, money will also be very disciplined with the person. So politics is very clean. Politics is not a negative per se, because in a society, in a human society, there must be authority and then a well-managed aspect of distribution of resources. Even in the pre-colonial African society, we had the Asante Empire in Ghana. That was about authority and management of resources in that very kingdom, in that very empire. So politics, I want to emphasize that, is not dirty. Politics is clean, but very dirty people make politics very dirty. So we must therefore regulate the people we want to enter into politics, especially in positions of power. They must not be dirty people. If they are, then we will contaminate politics.
Well, I'm sure our audiences are enjoying these conversations, and my argument raised, it sounds or rings a bell on the minds of our audiences. And well, you know, Job Matwa, I'm not leaving you, but just to stick with you, you are a politician.
Yes.
Hello, can you hear me, please?
I'm hearing you. I'm a very practical politician, a pragmatic one. Yeah.
Very well. You are a politician. And
yes.
I'm just wondering, you know the nature of the power.
Yes.
Do you think those who are in power now, or those who hold power now, once or reminiscing years back, they never had your ideologies of making politics the finest, contributing very well, but once they get power, it changes everything. You are a politician, and you say politics is not dirty. But even me here,
yes.
and other audiences in our program now have this
yes.
thing. It has become the norm, the general perception of politics. What difference are you doing as a politician to make politics look clean and not attractive for making money?
Okay, thank you very much, my brother. And at this point, I really want to be very candid, because I believe we, the young African, must look for the clean politics. I want to define it as the politics of desirability. Politics of desirable politics. Politics of desirability is a politics whereby we base our political contestations on ideas. Those are political agendas summarized into manifesto, and the values we want to cherish, or we cherish in our life, that we want to impart in society. So for politics to be desirable, we must emphasize politics of issues, politics of the interest of the common people we want to serve, politics of the competence of the people we want to elect, politics of the problems in society that we want to solve. It should not be a politics based on sectarianism, of religion, of tribe or ethnicity. We see like it is playing in a majority of African countries. It should not be about politics of the Muslim, the way we see in Nigeria. It should be based about the interest of the people in the country that we want to serve. So clean politics is politics based on ideas and principles. Thank you very much.
Vero, thank you very much for that submission. Interesting one there. And I believe our audiences are enjoying this conversation from our astute politician, freedom giant, Matwa Job Richard. Okay, let me leave you to have the rest there. I'll come back to you. But if I should go on to freedom giants, Adiron K, if I got the name right, are you here with us?
Yes, I am. Good evening.
Very well. Thank you so much for your time once again. And yeah, I know as long as I live, leaders become leaders by the votes of the people. What has become the order of the day amongst governmental leaders today? You have 7 minutes on the floor, please.
All right.
Hello,
thank you very much.
Okay.
Yes, I heard the question. Thank you very much. Before I proceed to answering your question, I'd just like to say thank you once again to Freedom Giants for inviting me to speak on this. To be honest, I appreciate it because this is I think the 3rd time that I'm speaking on the Freedom Giant platform. So I'd just really like to give a big shout out to Isaac. Thank you so much for always coming back. And I'd like to think that, I'm probably contributing something great to the society, and that's why I'm being called back time and again. So thank you very much for inviting me. So yeah, you mentioned about the order of today's governance. Oh, when I think of my country, I'm Nigerian, by the way. I've listened to people from Kenya, people from Nairobi, people from Morocco speak here in other places at various events. And, sometimes I'm jealous. I'm jealous sometimes, just sometimes, especially when, I listen to my friends from South Africa and I listen to, the things they have to say about their governance and, their state of living and everything. So, your standard of living, or basically the way you live your life, is greatly influenced by the order of the day in your community or in your country. So for instance, if you're living in a country characterized by violence, you're definitely going to have a very low standard of living. So if we were to look at the order of the day amongst government leaders, I feel like a very good place we should start from is to first identify what great leaders are. And then we juxtapose, we have to look at it critically. Then we look at it that, okay, these are what great leaders are. Now let's look at the leaders of nowadays. Let's look at our Nigerian leaders, our Kenyan leaders, our South African leaders. Let's look at all of these people and see if they're really doing well. So ordinarily, from my own point of view, I think a great leader should be characterized by resilience. They should be visionary. They should be adaptable. They should be principled and confident. They should be transparent and accountable. They should be great communicators. They should be culturally sensitive, especially coming from a place where we have various ethnic groups. Nigeria is filled with so many cultures that if you're going to lead a country like Nigeria, you have to be sensitive to minority groups and majority groups. So a leader should be culturally sensitive, should be authentic, should be responsible. Now, looking at all of these attributes, the question now is, are these leaders, do they exude these characteristics? Do they embody great leadership? So what really is the order of today's governance? Now, I'm going to speak from my perspective as a Nigerian. If we had to look at numbers and we had to take performance points for the Nigerian government, guys, I don't think I need to, I feel embarrassed to say this, but the truth is we're lacking behind and things are going badly. We're not even going to lie. I'm pretty sure my African brothers and sisters are aware of all that has been going on. If you've been conversant with like your African youth, then you know what has been going on in Nigeria. We've been dealing with a lot of insecurity. We've been dealing with, it's basically like we went from being the giant of Africa to being the rot of Africa, because now we're dealing with weak economy, we're dealing with rising insecurity, we're dealing with conflict after conflict. I mean, just weeks ago, we had someone going to a church and just mass shootout. I mean, I only heard these things happen in America. I didn't expect it to happen in my own country. So looking at the order of the day when it comes to Nigerian leaders, it's just so, it's so sad to say that it's only a few leaders in Africa that actually embody what we know as true leadership, what we know as true governance. The rest of them are just a disappointment, so to say the least. Now, this is me saying this doesn't mean that I believe being in a leadership position is easy, because obviously it's easier said than done. It's only until you get into a leadership position.
Please, I'm not cutting you, but let me pass this quick comment. Please, our audiences, Freedom Giants, can we unmute or can we mute our microphones just to prevent distractions of noise in this meeting, please? Thank you. Freedom Giants, you can proceed.
Oh, and by the way, my name is Adironke.
Adironke, okay.
Yes, thank you. So I don't know if you caught what I was saying, but what I've just been basically saying is that true leadership, I just defined it. And, you know, most African leaders these days, we only have a few of them that actually truly embody what we know as true leadership, what we know as true governance. Now, I was just saying that leadership is not easy. I mean, being in a few leadership positions myself, I can say for a fact that it definitely is not easy. It's easier said than done. When you get there, there is so many factors that you have to look at. So that is why leadership is not meant for everybody. But I believe that time and again, we've always made the same mistake of picking those who are not fit for leadership positions. And that is why we find ourselves in the problems that we find ourselves in lately, or in today's age. And most African countries are struggling. I mean, even till now, Africa is still the poorest continent in the world. And that is because there's only a few African countries that are doing well. And if I even had to list them off of the top of my head, I'll probably say countries like South Africa, Tanzania, and can we just give a hand for Tanzania? Because I've been reading up on their presidents, Samia Suluhu, and gosh, is she doing well? So like, we have just a few of them that are really setting the pace and making difference that we can see and that we can be pleased with. So it's just sad, but the order of the day of governance today is just disappointing. That's just literally the word to use for it, because the people there aren't fit. It takes a lot to be a leader. It takes a lot to carry the burden of millions of people to listen to their cries and to take action that is productive and proactive and is just aimed at moving the country forward. Now, this is a skill that you learn to build, that you learn on the job. You learn before you even get the job. You are prepared for it. You know what to do when you get there. It's not always easy, but it's something that a skill every leader should at least learn if they were not born with. Now, I remember last week I was saying something about the national cake. If I had to describe anything Nigerian leaders do these days, it's just to go for the national cake. And I have a very good example. A very good example is the concept of plea bargaining in Nigeria. Our government there is just characterized with corruption, basically. Corruption, because I was trying to find a better word to say. There's just no better ways to say it. It's just plain corruption, basically. They make laws to benefit themselves. They make laws that aim at advancing whatever it is they're doing, whatever it is that's going to benefit them. They're basically there to eat out of the national cake and take the whole cake home to their family members and share to the rest of them. I mean, I have so many instances of a lot that happened, especially during COVID. We had examples of House of Representative members taking palliatives and sharing it as their birthday souvenirs to their friends and families. We have our parliament that created laws to serve as soft landing for high-profile criminals. We have laws like the plea bargain laws. Like that law basically does nothing but protect rich criminals, basically. I mean, imagine a scenario. We've got someone who is supposed to lead the country, an executive arm of government, let's say, for instance, a governor, because I don't want to mention names. We have a governor that steals millions and millions in dollars, not even in naira, in dollars, from the national cake. And then instead of being prosecuted for that, we have the other arm of government, they're supposed to check them, making laws that says, okay, you know what, since you already stole, $10 billion, just give us, 100 million naira out of it, and we'll let go of your 191 count charges, and we'll just give you a slap on the wrist. And this happens. Like literally, they can't get away with these things abroad, but they get away with it here. I mean, if I'm not even communicating enough what the order of today's governance is, I think these examples should. And I'm speaking strictly from the Nigerian perspective. I haven't even gone to other parts of Africa.
Wow.
But again, the reason why I'm saying governance isn't easy, but at the same time, there are people who are doing it well. We have the Gambian presidents. We have Adama Barrow. We have the Egyptian presidents. We have Mustafa Madbouli. I mean, the prime minister, rather. The prime minister.
Okay.
We have several people that are doing well, several leaders that are doing well in this same Africa. And all their goal is to lead their country forward. But on the flip side of the coin, it's like if you had to look at the ratio of those that were doing well and those that weren't doing well, it's like 90-10. 90 being those who are just not doing well, and the 10% just trying their best to lay good example. Good governance is achievable. It's just that, our past speaker said, it's just the mindset, the people that come and corrupt the politics. I know what's even worse is that I am scared for the future. And I know this because I involved myself in student politics. And from my experience of what my colleagues have been doing, even before, It's just student politics, and you can see the length they take you to analyze. Really? And you're like, really? Yeah. Are we doing this right now? I mean, we're not even top leaders yet. We're not presidents yet. We're not head of states yet. We're not.
Okay, I'm not cutting you. I'm not cutting you. I do okay. But I'm only wondering, when you were a student leader, what difference did you do to change the narrative? Did you go as they say, as the Romans did, or you took a different path? And what happened? Tell us a little bit about those moments.
Yeah, so thank you for that question. I wouldn't like to toot my own horn and say, oh, when I got there, I changed the world. Which is exactly why when I first started talking, I mentioned that leadership is difficult. You have to, if you're not born with this skill, you have to do everything in your power to learn it if you want to assume that position. It's basically a sacrifice. Now, when I ventured into student politics, I really wanted to explore it all. So basically, I consider myself sort of an explorer. So I wanted to explore politics. I wanted to explore business. I wanted to explore a lot of things. So in my third year in the university, I said, okay, you know what? I'm going to explore politics. And, I went through the whole campaign route to become the vice president of my faculty. And it was all fun and good until, I realized that a lot goes into being a leader. It's a lot of sacrifices. It's a lot of uncertain moments. But at the end of the day, you always have to have the goal in mind. What do you really want for your people? And now, being the vice president, I knew my position was, I think one of the questions they asked me then was, during my campaign was, oh, are you going to be like an extra tire? I chose to set a different narrative. I wasn't going to be an extra tire. I wasn't just going to say, oh, yes, sir, to everything the president said. I was going to keep him in check. I was going to lead innovative practices. I was going to break the bounds.
Yes, but what did you do different? What did you do different in that
luckily
situation?
For me, yeah, I'm getting there. Okay. Luckily for me, I had a president that also had the same vision as I did. So it was relatively easy for us to change the entirely. We weren't the corrupt administration. We were accountable for every naira that we spent. In fact, we went out of our way to bring about new innovative practices that hadn't been existing before in the faculty. For instance, a lot of times we never take into consideration the mental health of students. And that was the one innovative thing our administration did. We brought in mental health in full force into the faculty, caring about the health of students, caring about, like, practically, not just in theory, not just talking about it. In fact, I would say everything we mentioned around manifestos, we accomplished 90%. And I would say 90% because probably the only 10% was the ones that we could not fund ourselves. Okay. In fact, I would say when I started as the vice president, I was rich. When I finished, I was much poorer than I expected because it did involve a lot of spending and a lot of sacrifices. But we're willing to take that because we understood what that was. Our counterpart, on the other hand.
Okay.
So I hope that answers your question.
Yes, but I was equally a student leader, the youngest student leader actually, and you were a student activist as well. But my question somehow, some way, not answered. I wanted to know how did you go round about the corrupt acts, even in that students' activism state? You emphasize on the things you did as response to your manifesto, but how did you manage the corrupt acts or any example of a corrupt situation that happened, and how did you manage to,
This is exactly, I mentioned, I actually did answer your question. And I did by saying that my president, who was our leader, who had the same vision that we all did. Do you understand? Like literally, he wasn't a corrupt leader. So we did our best. Now, when it came to the corrupt practices that I was talking about other faculties where we had no power. So literally the best we could do was to speak to them and be like, oh, you guys, you're not being accountable. This is not nice. Don't do this for faculty. It's basically like saying, oh, Nigeria going to Ghana and trying to fight corruption in Ghana. It's not possible. Do you understand? But when it comes to Nigeria, when it comes to our faculty, there was no corruption. I would say that with my full chest, there was no corruption during my time. Now, I can't say anything about the past leaders, what the past leaders did. But as at my own time, we were very accountable because our time was a time when, the past leaders before us, they messed up. So people were looking at us a lot. We had a lot of eyes on us. We had a lot of people trying to hold us accountable. So obviously we weren't going to embarrass ourselves. So we did our best possible to ensure that we were accountable. So that's how I can answer your question, to let you know that there was no corruption during my time. But before my time, there was.
Very well. Thanks so much for your honesty, even in that student activism stage, because as we all know, the nature of power, sometimes you spill all of those goodies, those good things, and so when you hold power, you know where power lies. But I think you feel.
I even have to say, the national cake self, I didn't even get. So there was nothing to even.
Yes, there is a school's motto that says, "Not for you, but for others." And I think okay, you didn't do one thing.
Yeah.
You did the right thing.
Oh, what was that?
But when you passed over or you handed over the baton, you left that space ajar. You could have held or got in touch with those who took power from you, and then guide them small. But you left them, and then you don't even know the states at which they are doing right now. Okay, so you did right. You should encourage others to do right so that we become change agents. You didn't do that. Okay, very well. But let me come in with this. I know.
Oh, when it comes to my faculty, I think, hello, can I just defend myself? I come from the faculty to bamboozle law students. I don't know about any other faculty in the entire university.
Okay.
But when it comes to the faculty of law, there is little you can do.
Okay. So which university did you attend, please?
Lagos State University.
Lagos State. Okay. And
university.
Okay, very well. And as far as I know, life is the only absolute moment in all ethical description. Okay. Are you here with me?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And I have a universal principle.
Yes, okay. I am.
The affirmation of life. And I am not postmodern with a fragmentary rationality. No. I think the affirmation of life is necessary for all humanity. Without the affirmation of life, we are finished. Mm-hmm. What is your take on that?
I didn't get that question. Do you mind repeating that?
Okay, so I said I have a universal principle, okay? And then that is it is the affirmation of life. Mm-hmm. I am not postmodern with fragmentary rationality, okay? Mm-hmm. But I believe life is absolutely all about ethical. Okay, you've answered that. Let me just go on. No, you haven't. Okay. So let me ask you this: without the affirmation of life, are we finished? Yeah, I want to get you.
Without the affirmation of life, are we finished?
Are we finished? Yes, I want to know your stand on this.
Without the affirmation of life.
Yes, are we finished?
You know that to do anything, you need life in you. And I'm not just speaking in terms of oxygen to breathe, but I'm speaking in terms of hope, in terms of positivity, in terms of courage. You need life to live life. So I believe that without the affirmation of life, yes, we are truly finished, because you need life to live life.
Okay, and I want to know, how do we affirm life?
So basically, from my own understanding,
yeah,
and my own perspective,
yeah,
I would say that we affirm life every day when we wake up, and we take cognizance of the gifts that we're given. When we wake up every day and we're grateful for the life that we're given, when we wake up every day with hope and faith in our hearts that today is going to be a better day, when we wake up every day with positivity, we are affirming life. We're affirming that life is worth living. And that's my perspective. That's how I believe I affirm life. Because you have to be grateful for what you've been given. There are people who wake up every day and they don't have the semblance of living. They just wake up, they're like empty barrels. They are in despair. Mentally, they're not fit to take on life as it should be taken. So I believe that to affirm life, you have to be grateful for life itself. And you have to have hope. You have to have courage. You have to think positively most times. And I hope that answers your question.
Okay, very well. Thank you so much for your time and your in-depth and interesting apt submissions there. I'll leave you, take a rest, and I'll get back at you. Thank you very much. This is African Voices International, the One Africa Freedom Dialogue on the theme, the politics of liberation. We've had submissions from our topmost freedom giants, from Freedom Giants Jane Gemato. We later had submissions from Freedom Giants Job Matwa Richard on what is politics, and a little in-depth knowledge, massive in-depth knowledge about politics itself. And we came down the line to have Adironke to elaborate more and even exhaust her time with what becomes the order of the day amongst governmental leaders today. Moving on. Can we continue to unmute our microphones to prevent hitches, just so we have clear sounds from our panelists? Mind you, question time will be opened, and then all will have, so you could just jot down your questions, and then we will allocate some time for that. Moving on, Freedom Giants Jameh, Landing Jameh, are you here with us? Landing Jameh, are you here with us? Please, Landing Jame, can you unmute your microphone? Hello, Landing Jame, are you with us? Okay. So we've had various insights, and I'm happy about today's conversations, and I believe audiences are following with rapt attention. I want to assure us that this dialogue or conversation we are having goes beyond a simple dialogue of liberation to deal with complex issues linking theory and practice in social life. We are offering ourselves an overview of the central issues raised by liberation theory or theology, and presents its methodological implications. The relation of facts and value we are exploring, and questions be raised by myself for further clarity. So I think democracy is objective. Democracy is objective, and I think objective is also subjective. You may want to ask me why, but I have a description almost. Okay, let me leave this. I'll get back at it later. But do we have Landing Jame with us on the line? Hello, Landing Jame, are you with us? Can you unmute your microphone and speak up to us? Moderator.
Yes, please.
Freedom Giant, Alberta, Yosen. Kindly, do you know, is Landing Jame with us?
No, please. He was here, but he went off. I don't know what happened, but he went off, and he's not yet back.
Okay, very well.
Yeah.
Can he be sent a message and alert to? We need his contributions here right now. Thank you very much.
Sure.
Thank you very much, Freedom Giants, who are our audience, for your time, your patience. Stick and stay with us. And if you have to take in some water to refresh yourself, you can do so in the next minutes. If you have to take something, you can do so in the next minute. But without much ado, I have a scenario, okay, let's take a situation where all people, okay, have a justice claim. All people have a justice claim. And I can have a justice claim, okay, but commit an unjust act because I do not know the negative effects. But the others who suffer from my action that I committed, with my justice claim, okay, suffers from my acts. So, hello, can am I being heard? Hello?
Yes, you are loud and clear, sir.
Okay, very well. So I was citing a scenario that, let's take a situation where all people have a justice claim. And I can have a justice claim but commit an unjust act because I do not know the negative effects, but the others who suffer from my action that I committed with my justice claim suffers from my acts. So one may say to me, yes, you have a justice claim, but he or she suffered from my acts. So you see it as unjust. You equally see the injustice of my acts, okay, in the negative effects of the other, that is, on the negative effects of the other. I want to know, this is, any of you could attempt this question. I want to know what justice claim itself is. Because we all have justice, okay, and I commit an unjust act. I do not know the negative effects, but others who suffer from my action that I committed with my justice claim suffers from my act. With this scenario, can somebody, and this goes to anybody can tackle this one for me, what justice claim is? That is one's actions going a long way for the other to suffer from. What is justice claim? Just maybe a 1 or 2 lines, then we move on. Justice claim. Hello, anybody can take the floor at this moment. Hello, Freedom Giants. Anybody can have the floor at this moment.
Hi.
Hello. Please
Yeah,
go
so
ahead.
if I got your question well, you said what is justice claims, right? And then you gave a scenario where someone does something in the name of justice and believes it's good, but then the action affects someone else, and then because it affects someone else negatively, they believe it to be unjust. Did I get that right?
Exactly.
And you want to know our perspective on that, whether it is truly just or not just.
Exactly. Just a quick one on that.
All right. So, first off, what is justice? The idea of justice when it comes to, because I'd like to talk about it legally. The idea of justice basically has to do with, depends on your point of view, right? There are some people that think of justice when it comes to like ethics and morals, and what they believe to be just has moral underpinnings, in the sense that when you tell lies, they consider it to be unjust, but when you speak the truth, they consider it to be just. Now, because usually it is the law that determines, it depends on the geography, or should I say the country, or wherever the community, whatever the laws of the community is. For instance, if lying is not considered an offense in Nigeria, then it's not considered unjust. But if you're thinking of it from a moral perspective, you could believe it to be unjust because that's what your beliefs are. So I'd say what justice is depends on ideologies. It depends on what you believe, and it also depends on the laws of the society you're coming from. So when it comes to the issue of someone claims something to be just, and then they believe it because it affects someone negatively, it is unjust. Now, when it comes to law, especially under jurisprudence, we refer to these situations as we refer to them under the theories of utilitarianism and deontology. So, for instance, now, when it comes to the theory of utilitarianism, someone who believes in utilitarianism believes in the theory of morality. They believe that action that foster happiness or pleasure, and the ones that foster action or pleasure are the ones that should be promoted as good, and then they oppose any action that causes unhappiness or harm. I don't know if you're getting that right.
Oh yeah, you can go on. I get you. You can go on.
All right. So when it comes to utilitarianism, they would say that an action is right if it results in the happiness of a greater number of people in the society, as opposed to. So in this situation now, they're talking about if whatever that person has done that they consider a just action, if it brings happiness to majority of the people in the society, and maybe just a few people are hurt by it, then people who believe in the utilitarian point of view, they would say, oh, what you've done is just, is good. I mean, so what if a few people are hurt by it? I mean, something is bound to give, someone is bound to suffer. So that's like one aspect of it. And then on the other hand, we have...
Okay, so by wrapping it up, yeah, you have the floor, please.
All right, so yeah. So now, that's what someone who's a utilitarian would say. Mm-hmm. But on the other hand, we have people who are deontologists. So they will believe that whatever action is forbidden is evil. Whatever it is, as long as it is causing harm to somebody, even if it is one person, it is bad and it is bad. So a practical example would be a situation where we decide, okay, should we kill one person to save the lives of millions? Do you understand? In that situation, the person being affected would say, hello, this is unjust. But definitely, what would be your own point of view? Wouldn't you say, oh, it's just to kill this one person to save the life of millions? That's what a utilitarian would think. But a deontologist would be like, no, this life matters. This one person has to be saved because killing is unjust and that's it. So at the end of the day, there are so many factors and it depends on the side that you choose to take. So if you want to be a utilitarian or you want to be a deontologist, would you rather that, screw the consequences, let's save this one person. Millions of people may die, but we're not going to, two wrongs don't make a right. We're not going to save this one person just for the sake of others, or we're not going to kill this one person for the sake of others. Whereas the utilitarian is saying, if this is going to help millions of people, then we might as well kill this person and save millions because the end justifies the means.
Well,
so
fantastic.
That's just my perspective on things.
Fantastic. I appreciate your knowledge with respect to the laws, and I would have to learn more from you privately. I believe our audiences also took one or two from that submission. I see we have Landon Jameh on the network now. Landon Jameh, if you can hear me, are you with us?
Yes, please, I'm with you.
Very well. Thank you so much for your patience. I know as far as I know, in any government, there is an executive level across ministerial, across agency plan that will be critical to success. London Jameh, what problems are governmental leaders facing today?
Thank you for having me back, and I really apologize for wasting your time because I really had a very, very, very bad connection here, so I just have to switch phones. So, but thank God I am back. As far as I know, in each and every government, they've got their own setbacks. And as far as African voice is concerned, mental leaders are facing today. And maybe some of the remedies that can be used to solve those problems they are facing today. As we all know, the world's governments are facing numerous problems, in their old government, causing a major setbacks on governments on the world and creating endless wars everywhere. As the world is crying foul of war in between Russia and Ukraine, which is affecting the world economy, not only in Africa, but globally in Europe, America, Asia, and specifically the sub-African region, which is the West Africa. The governmental leaders are facing some of them are as follows. Most governmental leaders are correct criticisms. When listening in terms of governance, and leaders always see that as a challenge and threat to their authority, which are self-centered, and some of them are very egocentric and do not respect others' fundamental human rights. Most of the leaders violate the subject's right, which is the electorate or the citizenry, specifically with false imprisonment of opposition leaders and supporters. We all know what happened in Uganda. I used to follow the news across the globe when it was election time in Uganda. We all know what was happening in Uganda when Bobby Wine, President Museveni's cabal, what was seasoned leaders and supporters. The same thing happened in the Gambia, like during the 22-year rule of the dictatorial rule of Yahya Jammeh. We all noticed that a lot of people were really in danger, specifically journalists, and many people who challenged his power and might. He will go up to any level to make sure that they do not challenge his authority. We all know when the Ghanaians and some Nigerians, he thought those people were mercenaries. Ghana, and some of them to Sierra Leone, some of them were executed. And now, that problem is still in the Gambia, though he is in exile. But a lot of countries are claiming for him to be prosecuted. Moving on, can you hear me?
Yes, you have the ear, loud and clear. Kindly proceed.
Good. As I was saying, the governments and leaders always see as a challenge to their authority. which makes it lead to victimization of some of the citizens and the opposition leader, which is, one could say, one of the most powerful ones in the country, Usman Sonko. Even yesterday, he was not even allowed to go out in public to pray the Friday prayers, because the president of Senegal, because he thinks that him letting Usman Sonko going out to public might cause instability in the country, but which is not true. Most governmental leaders are self-centered and do not respect the human rights. I've said that already. During the 22-year rule of Jammeh, many people have frequent. Like, take a look at our daily people have died. Some were left for dead, and many of them were wounded. And my condolences to their families. Moving on. In these citizens, the citizens involved in bigotry speeches against each other's religious beliefs. This is a case in recent government where we are witnessing clashes of religion currently in the Gambia between the Ahmadis and the Muslims in general. Some Muslim scholars are saying anything about it. This which the leaders are still doing is something that we should not be tolerating, because when the white people came to Africa, what they did was they divide and rule, and still now many of our leaders are using that as to their own advantage. In addition, we are facing political crisis in Russia, Gambia, and I'm sure Nigeria is next year, if I'm right, because I'm not sure. This crisis either be domestic or international crisis. The leaders sometimes want to show their military might to other countries. We have also witnessed a good number of growing rebellion in the world, specifically in Africa. Ranging from coups. Within the last 2 years, a lot of coups and foil coups have been occurring in our sub-region here in Africa. As the governmental leaders are ready to show out their political might, they might also vet out their economy, might to seek for better world recognition and the economy superpower. This is making the powerful nations or countries bully the small ones. Still, I will use Russia and Ukraine as an example, because I'm sure Russia is more powerful than Ukraine, because this is a show of military might. And this is not about anything, the NATO or other stuff. This is about showing military might. We since all countries trying to bully the small ones as they claim ownership of the small ones. In this case, destabilization of smaller countries like Ukraine, Libya, Iran, Iraq, Afghanistan, etc. The list can go on and on and on. There are reasonable solutions to the above problems that are mentioned. The government leaders should try to be transparent at all times, in order to avoid corruption, nepotism, and favorism. That will different countries to deal with. The governments should also establish human rights commissions. That will also be setting up every human rights violation that occurs in the country. The governmental leaders also should try to be champions in defending human rights, specifically those that are underprivileged, and specifically those that that they are differently enabled. I wouldn't say disabled, because nobody is disabled. We have differently enabled. The government or governments in Africa or in the global also establish laws that will avoid religious bigotry and violence debates. Recently,
London, Jamaica, can I come in? Can I come in, London? Hello? Hello, London, Jamaica.
The president of African Voice International, President Isaac Boru. Okay.
You have something Yes, I want to find out, just a quick one there. I want to find out if you say government should do something about the human rights specifically, doesn't government have institutions like SRAJ and co doing its work? What do you think governments must do? Because the institutions are there, established already. What do you think governments must do now to quicken it to be more effective?
About the human rights abuses in countries?
Yes, because there are establishments of institutions solely for that. And if you say government should do something about, what should governments now do when the institutions are there? Is it to empower the personnel? What specifically?
Okay. I think I have a very simple answer to that question. Because looking at things as a very known philanthropist would say, African leaders are toothless bulldogs. They only bark, but never bites. You understand? Many institutions like this, specifically in the Gambia, we have like numerous human rights commissions. You have the National Human Rights Commission, which is responsible for any human rights violations, being it domestic or international, specifically those whom that they are not citizens of this country. But now, looking at things, we Africans, specifically Gambians, I would say, we are very good in making policies. But when it comes to the execution of those policies, there is where you have the problem. There is where the problem lies. I will tell you one thing that maybe a lot of us know already, but I'm still going to put it up here. Like the people whom that they are the same people whom that they were present when making those policies for them to be executed. In the beginning, they are all there, but in the end, those whom that they are supposed to implement it, and those whom that they made the policies, they are not the same people. Mm-hmm. Like for example, I will be present today when we are making policies, but tomorrow I am not going to be present when they are going to be implementing this. This is one of the problems that we are facing right now. That is why many of the human rights commissions in this world or in the global anatomy of Africa, many of them are dormant. So this being the case, I think leaders should be very proactive when it comes to human rights.
Okay.
They should be very vocal about it.
Okay.
They should be always advocating for
very well. Strong submissions there, London Jamaica.
Yes, please.
Thank you for your inputs. Much.
I'm not yet done. Let me finish this.
Okay. Quick one.
Yes, like I was saying, the government should establish human rights commissions where
Landing Jameh, you are on and off. If you could change the position a bit, your sound comes and goes.
by you, that will be settling every human rights violation that occurs. The
Great.
governmental leaders should also be champions in defending human rights.
Great.
Government should also establish laws that will avoid.
Hello, London. We lost you there. Okay. Audience, Freedom Giants, it's unfortunate we lost Landing Jameh, but we appreciate those submissions there. We hope he joins it soon. Now, quickly, let me move on. As I move on to next on the bill, I have here Freedom Giant J. Mato. Are you here with us?
Yes, I'm here.
Very well. Thank you so much for your time and patience. We appreciate that so much. And I have this for you. Every leader promises to change the world with promises as a leader or as a leader to be. And I'm just wondering, why are citizens suffering from leaders who promise to bring forth change?
Thank you for the question. Sorry, just a minute. Thank you very much for the question. I hope everyone can hear me. Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Thank you for the question. So there are many reasons why this happens in our setup. And there are many reasons why this happens on the planet, especially in Africa, unfortunately. And the main reason is that you have politicians who are lying that they will give you A, B, C, and D so that they can win elections, so that they can go and do what they want once they become leaders. And I will give examples of, like in my country, Kenya, the current government actually promised us that we are going to get very good stadiums, world standard stadiums, and we're going to get laptops for children who are in primary school. We voted them in, and unfortunately, none of those promises came to be. Another reason is that some of these politicians are politicians to protect their own interests. For example, you'll find situations where someone has ill-gotten wealth, and they know that being a politician, politics is basically, being in politics is basically having power, because you know very well it's very hard to prosecute someone who's actually actively sitting. They have the resources to look for, to get very good lawyers, and also they are in that position where they're controlling the laws that are being made. So if someone got wealth through wrong means, they like to be in that situation where they are political leaders, so that they are taking their own money. And as a result of that, they are not doing they're not doing what they said, what they are supposed to be doing in the first place. As a result of that, you have people suffering. The other reason is that the politicians that we have, unfortunately, most of them are people who don't really care about what the common, in Kenya we say the common mwananchi, which means the common citizen. They don't care about what is happening to the common citizen. They don't care whether the common citizen has food. They don't care whether the common citizen has education, has shelter, has healthcare, and you see at the same time, these are the same people who are in control of the taxes in the country. So if they don't allocate taxes to go and sort issues concerning the people, the citizens of the country, there's going to be issues. And also you'll find that maybe there are industries that, again, I'm going to give an example of my country. We have these sugar industries in my country, and unfortunately, because importing sugar is more profitable to individuals who happen to be politicians, they prefer to import sugar and destroy the local sugar industries that are there in the country. So now we're at a situation where we are importing a lot of things, yet we could have produced them in our own country. Another issue is that these politicians have a failure to access their ignorance. One thing
we have a politician amongst us.
I hope he's getting the point.
Please go ahead.
One thing that you're going to find is that no matter who you are, all of us at birth we know nothing. So it's as you continue to grow, you get to know this, you get to know that, and actually, even the wisest of people know that they know very little as far as what is concerned, as far as what concerns this planet, the populace, everything. So you find that these politicians, for many reasons, whether it's ego or other factors, they don't accept that they have ignorance, that they are unaware about some issues, and because of that, they never go in search of more information, which they would have used to help people. So you'd find that let's say people are living in a place where, like, okay, I'm going to give the example of, again, I'm sorry that I'm giving a lot of Kenyan examples, but that's what I know more of. For example, in Kenya, there is something called the Mau forest, and the politicians allowed a lot of people to encroach on that forest. And what has happened at the end of the day is that we have less water, we have less rainfall, which is affecting other factors. But instead of people saying, yes, we made a mistake, how can we correct it? Everybody wants to work with their ignorance and say there was no mistake. We were trying to sort issues about people who didn't have land. So many issues.
Oh yes.
Yes. Another thing is politicians are unaware of the need of the populace. For example, if you'd find that a lot of politicians, especially in Africa, the people in parliament are very are not a good representation of what is happening of the citizens in the country. You'd find, like, for example, most countries are made up of at least 50% women, but very few of the politicians in parliament, very few of women make it to parliament. I think it's only Rwanda where women make up a large chunk of parliament. But in most of these countries, you'd find that leaders don't women, okay, the leaders in the country don't reflect the people on the ground. They don't reflect the disabled people on the ground. So, for example, to a building, there is no access for disabled people. That leads to suffering of those disabled people. When it comes to women, nobody cares to give, for example, nursing rooms. In fact, in Kenya, that became an issue 2-3 years ago, that even parliament did not have a nursing room for their female politicians, and finally they got one. So you can imagine if parliament doesn't have, how many workplaces are going to have such for women. The other thing that leads to this problem is that a lot of our politicians experience luxury, and I'm going to give the major example of presidents. Look at our presidents. When they're moving from point A to B, the traffic has to be stopped for them to move. So they'll never understand what it means to be stuck in traffic. When they're traveling, they're going via private jet. When they're sick, they get the best healthcare. In fact, most of them go outside the country. even if there was famine in the country, they would still get very good food with them. So they never really understand what is happening really among the people. And I'll give the example. I think there's a president of, I think it was Zambia. The healthcare in the country was really bad, but because he didn't get to experience that healthcare, he didn't do anything about it. But unfortunately, one time when he was going through the country, he got a heart attack he got a heart attack while he was in a hotel in one of the countryside places that he was in. And what was missing was adrenaline, a very cheap drug, but it's important when it comes to cardiac resuscitation. And you see, as a result of that, he now experienced the suffering that the common people were going through. Another major issue that we have in Africa is that we see our leaders as important people who, we see them as more important than anybody else. We see them as people who need to be revered. So you'd find that in a lot of cases, politicians are not usually told the truth about what is happening. There's actually a saying that the higher you go, the less truth that reaches you. So a politician who doesn't ensure that the people around, that you have objective people around you who not to tell you the truth despite. A lot of people will be telling you, they're saying positive things about you. People are happy with this project you've done. They'll never, a lot of these politicians don't really get to get the truth about what is happening on the ground. And as a result of that, you cannot make policies to help people who are suffering if you don't know anything about their suffering. Another issue that leads to a lot of suffering in Africa is that politicians end up hiring qualified people. I don't know who. There's someone who needs to mute themselves. There's a lot of noise. I don't know who that is.
Hello, Freedom Giants. Please, if you are not on floor, could you mute your microphones, please? We are having unwanted feedbacks. Adam Abba.
Hello, good evening.
Adam Abba, please mute your microphone. You don't have the floor yet. Adam Abba. Okay, thank you very much.
Okay.
Freedom Giant Jane, go on. Yes.
Okay, so the other issue that brings problems is that one of the other issues that causes a lot of suffering among the citizens is that most of the time you end up with unqualified leaders, not just politicians. You see, for example, yes, you do vote for your politicians, but at the end of the day, those politicians get to choose the important leaders in that country. They get to choose the ambassadors. They get to choose the ministers. They get to choose, even sometimes they get to choose, like for example, the police leaders, the doctors who are going to be in charge of big hospitals and all that. So you find that in some of these cases, they use that as a chance they use that as an opportunity to pay back to return a favor to people who had been useful to them when they were trying to become while they were trying to get election. And as a result of that, you find that some of these people who are taken up by politicians are unqualified. So you find that people don't even understand what their job is supposed to be. They end up making a lot of messes in the departments they are given. So as consequently leading to a lot of suffering among the populace. Like for example, if you put someone who doesn't understand how healthcare runs, they might not hire enough medics, enough nurses. As a result of that, the citizens are the ones who are going to suffer. Something very important is that we should always remember something, that our politicians that we choose are usually a reflection of our society. So sometimes let's look at them as a mirror of us, because if we improve as a society, then hopefully also the politicians will improve. If the more suffering we have in society and we keep choosing the wrong people, that also propagates the problem, because we are suffering, but instead of taking that opportunity to choose better people, we let it go and choose the same people, and the suffering continues. Another point is that especially in Africa, the definition of success is money. It is not your books. It is not not anything else that you've achieved in this planet. It is not your mental health. It is not your physical health. It is your financial capabilities. So as a result of this, a lot of politicians, when they go into politics, their target is to make that money so that they are deemed as successful by society. So they are going to find ways of transferring that money from projects to build hospitals, to cater for children, to give education to children, to ensure there's enough food baskets in the country. They're going to divide that money from that direction into their pockets. And the more they make that money, the more they are revered in society, and the more the young people who are looking up to politicians look up at them, because they're looking at the pockets of that politician, not because they are saying, this politician has done this for us, has done that. No, they're just saying, I want to be a politician because that man is rich. And the most important thing is that, unfortunately, in most societies, politicians don't get consequences for their actions. The citizens will suffer, and the cycle will propagate. The cycle will continue. This politician who didn't deliver on their promises, this politician who stole money, this politician who hired the wrong people, this politician who didn't care enough to go find out what is happening to the people, will never get consequences. And as a result of that, they don't have the motivation to go to the ground and see what is happening. They don't have the motivation not to steal. They don't have the motivation to do things the right way. So I think that's a major issue. The major point is that they know at the end of the day, no matter how many citizens suffer, no matter who dies, no matter anything that happens, there'll be no consequences on them. So they don't do anything. Thank you.
Wow. Very well, insightful, impacting, interesting inputs there. Thank you so much, Freedom Giant Jane Mato. It's a pleasure having you on this conference. Without wasting much time, I would like to move on to Freedom Giant's job, Matua Richard, with us. Hello, Freedom Giant.
Hello,
what can we do to curb all of these we have discussed here to bring justice into our political anatomies?
Thank you very much, Freedom Giants. My dear African brothers and sisters, I have heard from you the submissions you have made. And before I could respond to the question that my brother has asked me, what can we do to curb the problems the previous presenter has discussed? I would like to refer to what my sister from Nigeria said. First of all, I extend my sympathies to her, given the situation she has narrated. My sister, you talked about leadership being a problem. And I can tell you that leadership is not a problem. That leadership is not easy. My sister, leadership is easy. What we are lacking in our political anatomies in Africa is having leaders who are ideologically clear and are visionary. So the lack of visionary and ideologically clear leadership is the primary cause of the problem you were citing. A visionary leader, an ideologically clear leader, will not do populism and will be very, very clear in guiding the people he is leading or she is leading in the direction they wish to move sociopolitically or socioeconomically. So I therefore plead with you that it is not true that leadership is very difficult. It is not difficult, except that for the leadership to be very easy, the leader must be visionary and must be ideologically clear. That way, the leader will be able to guide the people he or she is leading in the right direction. That Africa is the poorest country. My sister, I want to tell you that this is the actual Western narrative. It is a lie told to us Africans to make us reject our continent. And I can tell you, there is no rich place like Africa in the entire world. Africa is the richest continent. We are being told that we are the poorest because if we are told that we are the richest people, we may decide to collectively guard our wealth to deny it from the imperialists that need the wealth badly. So it is the easiest way to tell us that you are very poor so that we can easily surrender our wealth to the enemies that want to take it. So that narrative that Africa is the poorest continent is not true. What is very true is that Africans have not benefited from the wealth we have due to poor leadership, due to leadership that does not address the interest of the people, but largely address the issue of the rulers, the people who are ruling, who want to be better off at the expense of ordinary citizens in the various countries in Africa. So the truth is that Africa is the richest continent, and it is also very true that due to poor leadership, majority of the ordinary citizens of Africa have not benefited from the wealth in their country due to poor management, primarily done by their leaders. So national cake, when we look at national cake, we are addressing two broad areas. One, how are national positions distributed in a country? Does the distribution reflect the social disposition of such a country? I mean the social structure in such a country. For example, Nigeria. How is Nigeria socially structured? Is it alongside the religion, alongside the tribe, alongside ethnicity, alongside what kind of social structures exist in Nigeria? That structure must be reflected in the distribution of national positions. Sex should be taken into consideration, even population demography, in considering distribution of positions in a country. So national position form the first broad area of national cake. Then we have the national budget. How is the national budget drawn? To the extent that it is actually a pro-people budget, a budget that is geared towards addressing concerns affecting the majority of the people in a country. Then how is that budget distribution? How is the sharing of the national budget reflective of the national affair, national distribution? How is it reflective of every region, every sub-region, every state, every district, depending on the political system you engage in your country? So therefore, national cake, when we are talking about national cake, we are talking about positions, national positions, which can be in civil service or in political arena, and then the national budget, how these are distributed. Automatically, their distribution will eventually reflect the nature of development of different areas within a country. So to answer the question I was asked, how can the problems we have be curbed to bring justice in our political anatomy in Africa? Remember, we are looking at politics of liberation. Number one, I want to emphasize this, that the elites in Africa and the younger population must get serious and participate in political decisions. I want to see the younger people in Africa that want a better Africa, that want a better country in their respective countries, to stand up and bring forward their idea. You cannot bring your ideas when you are outside the field. You can better bring your ideas when you are in the field of decision making, when you can be able to influence other people with whom you are at that decision making level to give a direction of the country you want, to give a direction of the continent we want. So we have seen that the elites generally do not participate in political decision. Very few of them actually go to line up to vote. The majority of them are busy online talking, but they will never go and vote, leaving the people who are uninformed, who are compromised, who can even be compromised by any amount of money, including $1, to go and vote a person who is not serious, who does not have political agenda to become a leader. So we must therefore enhance mass education of the people in Africa. We must enlighten the people to understand that political decisions are very important. They affect everybody, whether you choose to claim to be political or apolitical, and therefore everybody must take active role in determining political questions in a country, in answering to a political question by participating in political decision. Yes, some people talk about rigging, that you can even vote and your decisions are not heard. We have seen a brutal regime of President Yahya Jammeh defeated by election in Gambia. How did the Gambians do? Which we cannot do anywhere else in other countries in Africa. So I emphasize mass sensitization of the people, especially the young and the elites, that they must go and participate. I want to see the younger people standing in political position to be elected. I want to see the elites going to stand for political position. I want to see the elites going to participate in elections by ensuring that they go and exercise their rights to vote the leaders they want. Then election of the people into political offices must be based on issues, must be based on the agenda people have, must be based on the principles people need, must be based on values and the competence of the people we want to elect. Now, a new trend is emerging in Africa, whereby elections are becoming monetary affairs. People pay money to be elected. To the contrary, if you go to advanced democracies like in UK and in particularly USA, in USA, ordinary citizens contribute money to fund the campaigns of the people they want to elect in position. People contribute money for presidential, governorship election, even senators, members of Congress. But in Africa here, voters want the aspirant, the candidates, to give them money in order to give them a vote. So at the end of the day, wrong elements go and buy votes from the voters, and once they are given the power, the authority, which I emphasized at the start, that politics is actually a game of influence, of authority, that is the power, and the resource distribution. Once now we elect the wrong people, we allow the wrong people to buy our votes, then they will go and use the authority they have to steal as much as they can to recover their money they use to buy the votes and to make a profit. So elections must therefore be pitched on ideas. So we should emphasize good politics. That good politics is politics which is based on issues, the common interest of the people, the issues affecting the people. And therefore the people must elect those that have the best ideas, that resonate well with their thinking, with their line of expectation. Then we have the poor, the majority poor people. How do they determine political decisions? Why don't they take advantage of their majority number to elect one of their own, to go and do exactly what they think can be done to change themselves? So of what merit is it for another poor person to decide to sell his or her vote to a rich person who will thereafter not care for what happened with the poor person? What if this poor person decide to vote another fellow poor person who has a better idea to solve his or her problem, to solve a problem that affected them? How would it be different? Therefore, the poor people must be told that selling their votes does not help them at all. Then emphasize democracy. Please, I still want to emphasize democracy. Yes, democracy everywhere is struggling. Recently, we have elections in the USA where a whole incumbent president, Donald Trump, rejected the outcome, claiming that he was rigged and has maintained it up to date that he was cheated. What does that mean? A democracy of over 220 years. So that means that democracy anywhere will always have challenges, be it in Uganda, be it in Kenya, be it in Nigeria, be it in South Africa, be it in Egypt, be it in Sudan. So democracy is still evolving everywhere. Now, the second thing is that the kind of democracy we have in Africa was majorly copied and pasted here. We need organic evolution of democracies in our different countries in Africa. Democracy should never be one size fits it all. No. We have seen Asian tigers, the Malaysia, the Singapore taking off. We have seen China taking off. They have their own kind of, democracy, where the head of state is elected by delegates, not elected by everybody. So long as democracy, the essence, democracy serves the interest of the people, which ultimate interest is the government of the people, for the people, by the people, government addressing the issues affecting the people, then there is no problem. So we must not try to really over-compare democracies in Africa to democracies elsewhere. Democracy evolves organically depending on the struggle between the social classes within a country. So the evolution of democracy in Africa should be allowed to take it organic trend. It will reach one time very highly. We saw the Gambians struggling to see how they will remove Yahya Jammeh. At the end of the day, the same democracy delivered to them a new leadership. And I believe Gambians are now better. Then we must emphasize gender parity in our democracy. Now, we now have very many educated people in our political position. Can we have 50% women and 50% men? Can we have a proportion that is commensurate, that is actually close to each other? That way, we will see improvement in our democracy. Yes, there will be issues of rigging, issues of unfairness. Yes, those struggles will be there. We must continue to challenge them. We must continue to undo them. But we must emphasize democracy as the only option. Then, we need to reject the over-involvement of the military in the democratic processes in Africa. We have seen that the military has been more of a negative factor once it gets involved in democracies in Africa. In West Africa, there is a new trend of military coups taking place due to inefficiencies or deficiencies taking place in the democracies that were in existence. Yes, those democracies had issues, but is it any better now in the hands of the military? Will the military promote democracy or depromote it? So, just like it is in USA, where the military does largely the role of defending the territorial integrity of the country, we need to see less involvement of the military in democratic processes in Africa. Because the military, where else they have been involved in Africa, has largely been of negative influence. Then, build capacity in our politicians. I have seen that in Africa, what we call multi-party democracy is some kind of more confusion than even single partyism. In my country, Uganda, here, we were far better when we were under one-party system called movement system of governance. Today, we have multi-party politics, with very many of the political elites themselves not understanding the true essence and basic doctrine or practices of multi-partyism. Multipartyism is good only if the political elite is mature enough, the politicians themselves are mature enough to understand that The existence of opposition parties is primarily to provide alternative policies different from what the ruling party is providing, so that the other alternative can be used as an alternative to bring them in power, so that their alternatives can be implemented different from the alternative provided by the ruling party. Unfortunately, multi-party democracy in Africa are instead promoting more division by parties being formed alongside ethnicities. The case we see in Kenya, which is very predominant in Kenya, where parties are formed along ethnic lines, then the different ethnic groups they coalesce, the parties with different ethnic group coalesce to try to capture power, to implement their agenda. That continue to really weaken our society. Our political parties should be based on their unique values or principles they want to inculcate in the citizens, and their political agenda, which I want to call alternative policy options, different from the one of the ruling party. Then lastly, let's look at the issue of citizens checking their leaders. We have allowed the citizens to not check their leaders by our legislative arm of the government, allowing themselves to be compromised by the executive, by our MPs or our congressmen, our senators, chasing individual interest instead of the interest of the country, of their country. So if the legislative arm of government is very serious, it will provide checks and balances to the executive. It will ensure that our leaders are checked so that they serve the interest of the people, not their selfish interest. Otherwise, I thank you very much, my Pan-African brothers. Thank you very much for this conversation. I insist, politics is not anything dirty. It is only dirty people who make politics dirty. I compare it with money. That money takes the character of the possessor. If it finds a disciplined person, that money will be very disciplined with that person. But if it finds a very crazy person, the person will even become more crazier in possession of the money. So politics is basically, in a practical sense, about influence. It is about influence concerning power, that's authority, and distribution of resources within a society, which can be at the local level, at even a kingdom level, at the national level, at the continental level, even up to international level. I thank you very much.
Please, it's time for question and answers. If you have any question, you kindly raise up your hands, and then we'll call on to you to give us your question or your view or whatever you have to add. Please, question and answers time. Question and answers, please. Any question on board? But I hope everyone can hear me clearly.
Yes, I can hear you, but my hand is up.
Okay. Please, you can go in now. What's your question or your view?
First and foremost, I want to thank the organizers of this dialogue, which is very, very important for us. The host, Eko Ando, moderator Albert Yausin, and the panelists, Landin Aderonke, my sister from Nigeria, Job Mutua, and Jen. I am Ambassador Dr. Saad Umar Farouk from Nigeria.
Welcome,
yes,
sir.
Thank you very much, ma. The topic is a very interesting topic, that is politics of liberation. Please, I want to make a contribution, and I want you to allow me to digress a little bit before I make, because we are all out to get solutions to the problems that are bedeviling us as Africans.
Okay, sure.
First and foremost, if we talk about politics, politics is as old as human creation, because once there are two people who agree to stay together, there must be politics for them to stay together. And I think That is the politics Job Mutua was talking about when he said that politics is a clean game and that is being played by clean people. But unfortunately, the politics we are experiencing in Africa is an imported politics or democracy. I hope I'm loud and clear.
Yes, please, you are.
Okay, thank you. The politics we are experiencing in Africa generally is an imported type of politics or democracy because they were imported to us by our colonial masters with the benefits like creation of national state countries, then by bringing Western education to us, by giving us mandate system of governance, then creating economic activity that we must play within that particular role they have outlined. Now, those that type of politics have created some problems for the Africans by the colonial masters, which include lack of institutionalization, then dividing us within the tribalism, ethnicity, religious, regional, and the rest of them, then having double allegiance. What I mean by double allegiance today, for example, Nigeria is a byproduct of UK or the Britain. So whenever there's any leadership in Nigeria, for that leader to succeed, he must be allegiant to his colonial masters. Then we have crisis of modernization. You know, anywhere there's development, there must be crisis. So those are some of the problems they created. They also give us weak economic base. Now, the problems and failures of African government, which include destruction of our sense of community. Because in Nigeria now, I want to say, I thank God that one of the panelists is from my country. I want to be very honest because I'm a practical person. I don't believe in theory. In Nigeria, when we were having the military rule, we were more stable. There was much love in between us. We don't kill ourselves like now. Now there's lack of trust even between one family. They ended up dividing us based on this community destruction, then violation of basic human rights. Apart from that, the government we are experiencing now, in theoretical, they say government of the people, by the people, for the people. But that is the theoretical aspect. But the practical aspect is government of those who are governing, for those who are governing for their own benefits. That is the truth about what is happening, more especially in my country. Now, I want to state that, like what Freedom Giant Job has been saying, that the politics is a clean game. Well, in this part of my country, if you are the clean type, they will not allow you. They have hijacked it. The politics in Nigeria today is for the dirty people. And if by any means, by mistake, you find yourself there, they will frustrate you out. I think Freedom Giant Aderonke can either agree with me or disagree with me, because I'm talking about the practicability. I'm not talking about the theoretical aspect. I'm talking about what is sustainable. Yes. So you see, once you are clean in this our politics, that is why I made up my mind. If I cannot beat them, I will not join them, because there are a lot of people who are not even looking for how to beat them now. It's only to join them. Now, this type of politics was imported to us. For example, 2023 in Nigeria, we are going for general elections. I want to let you know, those people that emerge as their party's flag bearers were elected not by the common man. I want to let you know that it's not the common man that elected them. It is within the cabal, the dirty players who put themselves as delegates. Those are the people who elected those people and presented them to us so that we are going to elect them in 2023. And I want to tell you one painful aspect of it. In Nigeria, the vote of a common man does not count. Let me just say it. We are only going there to fulfill all our righteousness. So now, the way forward, I'm happy we are talking, because when there is any problem and you people are talking about it, I think you'll get out of it. So I want to employ on all of us to tie our belts seriously in the various anatomies to ensure that we sensitize people so that we can hijack or we can collect back what belongs to us, because that mandate is no longer our own. We are only saying it, we are only talking theoretical, but in reality, it's a lie. Those people in government, one, they have immunity. You can't do them anything. You can't take them to any law court because they have immunity once they are in government. Just like what other freedom giants have just said, they don't fly with, they don't travel on the public transport system. They don't. Now, look at our African presidents. Like in Nigeria, one of the candidates we are having about 80 years. I remember Paul Biya of Cameroon was shivering, but he was to stand for election. Why? What is wrong with us? Don't we have people who are strong enough from 40, 50, let's say, to be presidents? What is wrong with us? And the same common man, that same common man is the same common man that will go and be jubilating because they give them right. Sometimes ago, I saw one video on the social media. I was so pleased with it, I think from Ghana, when some political people carry some rice and put it inside hillocks and they return it. They want job. That is what we are expected to do by now. All African anatomies, we need to sensitize our people. One thing, some people claim that poverty, I don't believe it. Collecting a bag of rice will not remove poverty in my life. But when I get a job, yes, I can develop on that job and remove poverty. So for you to bring food for me, you are not doing me any good. So we really need to work hard, have a change of mindset, because the political system we are practicing here is the dirty type of politics, and it is hijacked by the dirty people. So we that are here that are talking today, if we are really not dirty enough, we need to go inward, start our sensitization as time goes on, because anytime you start to talk about something, that means you are tired of it. We are now talking about it. We are talking about the anatomies. We are talking about African liberation in politics. So the only way we can liberate Africa is, one, we must have change of mindset. Two, we all must have this mindset. If we don't beat them, you don't join them. Because if we continue joining them, that means it will continue to be business as usual. So that is my contribution. I really, really thank each and every one of us that is on this platform. But I am so optimistic, very, very optimistic, that we are going to change the narrative if we continue with the way we are doing now. God bless all the freedom giants, and may God bless us all.
Okay. Thank you so much, Freedom Giant Dr. Farouk. That was a powerful contribution. He says for us to bring liberation to Africa, we must change our mindset. If we can't beat them, we shouldn't join them. Thank you so much. We've also learned today. Any questions, please? Any more questions? Any more questions? Raise up your hands for us to know. If there are no questions, I think we are going to wrap up now. Thank you so much for joining. We learned so much today. You must be grateful to affirm life. You must be positive. You must be hopeful in life as well. Politics is not dirty. Coming from our politician, Honorable Job Matua, he says politics is not dirty. One of our panelists also said, you being successful doesn't really mean having money. What you achieve in life means you are also successful. Thank you so much for coming. We appreciate each and every one of you. On behalf of Avi and the president of AVI, we say sure. So we are wrapping up. So our next program will be disclosed to us on our social media handles. That is, we have an Instagram handle, a YouTube handle, and then our WhatsApp handle, which is really moving as well. Thank you so much for spending your time with us. Thank you all so much for everything, for contributing, and for helping promoting liberation in our African anatomy. So, AVI, that is African Voices International, Freedom in Africa. We will say a short closing prayer before we go. We thank you all for your time as well. So we are saying a short prayer before we go. We thank you, Abba Father, for bringing us to a successful program. We say we thank you. We give you all the glory and honor, adoration. As we are leaving, we are not leaving your shelter. We pray that may you continue to protect us and our family. May you protect us from any harm coming our way. Abba Father, we thank you. We give you all the glory and honor, adoration. When we meet once again, we'll say you are Lord. We'll say you are the Kings of Kings and the Lords of Lords. So, amen. Amen. So thank you so much.
Amen.
We've come to the end of our program. The African Voices International, Freedom in Africa. Thank you all for your time. Thank you so much.